Hey allihopa! Today we're going to carve one of these little Santas. Or maybe it's just a dude with a long beard. I don't know. It's a fun little whittle, or this one is rather big comparing to the other I used to do. So, but you can make these with the small pieces of wood too. This one is 4.5 times 4.5 times 15 centimeters, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, I have been asked to show how I carved this one, so I thought I'd make another one quite like him. So this video will be in two parts, because it's a long video. So the first part is when I carve him, and then there will be a second video uploaded quite close to this one, where I paint him and talk a little bit more about the painting process. So keep your eyes up for that one too, and let's begin. So today we're gonna work with a little larger piece of wood. This is 4.5 and 4.5 centimeters and 15 centimeters tall. And you can of course do this with the smaller wood pieces too. But today I want to make a little larger figurine, a little larger Santa. So we're gonna start with marking where the hat is going. So we want the hat to be about this high, something like that. Then we want it to be a little bit not straight down here, something like that, and all the way around. You can draw it however you like, but I like it if it's not totally flat, something like that. And then we go in the front and we watch, so it's about the same, something like that. And we have the lowest point here and here, so let's just go up and join those two together. And I tend to not use measurements when I'm drawing, because I want them to be a bit unique, every one of them. But it is about 3.5 centimeters to the top of the rim and 4.5 to the bottom of the rim of the hat. So, and when we have the hat, we're just gonna draw for the nose, and same here. Make a large nose if you want, or a small nose. Doesn't really matter as long as you're happy with the carve. And then we're gonna start with making a V-cut on each edge here. So let's start with that. Or it's more of a stop cut than a V-cut. And go all the way around, just the edges to start with. Something like that. And now we're gonna go around and take all these lines out with stop cuts. So we take, working with the corners, just remove that part, turn him upside down, like so. And the same on this side. Take the corner, this here, and then unite them. and the last side. Like so. And there we have the edge, the upper edge of the hat. And now we're gonna take away all these corners and just remove them. And try to keep in mind the grain direction so you don't remove too much. But we're gonna remove quite a bit because we want to round the hat. Something like that. You can look from the top to see if you need to remove something more, but it's not very exact work. Now we're gonna turn him around. We're gonna remove down here, like so. Just round it over a bit. A little bit tricky to hold when you're making the hat because it's not a big piece to get a grip on, but if you're careful you can manage and cut in which way you want. Now we're just rounding over the hat. And if we want to, we can make a little curve on the hat too. Now while we are rounding it over, then we can work from down and go up a bit. So we have it a little bit thinner in the bottom. Because we work with a square piece of wood, we don't need to make it completely round, because then it would be very small. So we're just rounding it over so it looks round. Because if I was to make this totally round, it would be very small. Or not very small, but it wouldn't look so good. Because then you need to make the head very small, and then the body very small, and then we have a small Santa. So I had this idea that I was going to make a little playlist with different Santas, because I have been carving a bunch of them lately, and it's quite fun, even if it's, what is it, 2.5 months till Christmas. And it's quite fun to carve Santas. So this will be the first large Santa that I'm carving in a video, of course. And there will be more. I will make it as a playlist or a collection with all the harder Santas that I'm carving. And when I'm carving this way, because I have gloves, it's not so risky, but because I have gloves, I can put my knives or my thumb on the knife and just pull it down like this. And it makes it very safe, and much easier because you have the wood on the bench and you just take small cuts or thin cuts, long thin cuts like this, and just round it over all the way around. I think we will be done soon. Something like that, a little bit more in the back here, so we get rid of that edge and just round it a bit here. You don't need to go all the way up to the top because the edge of the hat is on a little slope. You want the top of the hat to be that too, so something like that. Nothing exact, just a little bit of a guideline. And then it helps to have a really sharp knife, because now when we have gone through all around to make it round, we're gonna take the knife and just a little piece at a time, at a little angle. And I forgot to say, but this is basswood. I always carve my figurines from basswood, so it's very easy to carve. And when you have a sharp knife, it's quite satisfying to just take the end grain like this. When I carving this part, I will try to go with the edge like this and like the top like this, because if I take it straight out like this, this will get a little bit ugly. It tends to ship like this. Here's just a little bit, and we're gonna chamfer the edge later, so it doesn't do that much. But if you're unlucky, it will take a big part out, and then it won't be that easy to save. Just get rid of these saw marks. Not so pretty. Something like that. Now we have a little slope. We don't need to go all the way down, because when we take the edge like this, it will give the illusion that we carved more than we did. Like so, and then just chamfer the edge. So this piece was a little bit soft here, but I think we can manage to work around that. Something like that. I tend to want to leave my hats quite rough, not perfect. I want it to be noticeable that you have carved it, so that's perfect. And now we're gonna go to the nose. And the nose, we have this line here. For reference, if we measure all the way from the top and down, it's about 7 centimeters, because we removed a bit up there. But as I said earlier, use your own measurements and do what you think is pretty. So we're gonna make a stop cut on the rim of the hat, and I have the line over here, so I will go a little bit down, so there is room for errors, so to say. I can always just remove that later if I want. And now it's important to take small pieces here, so we don't break off the edge. we want to go not too deep, something like this. There we have the nose, or the back of the nose, spine of the nose. I don't know what you call it in English, but yeah, just a little bit more, something like that. Now we're gonna make stop cuts on all these corners. Small pieces so you don't break off the tip. Like that, and the back. And this side. And now the same as on the top, we're gonna work along these lines and just make stop cuts all the way. Just a small part at a time. Something like that. It doesn't need to be very deep, because we want to at least not deeper in than the top, because it would be weird if it had a really large hat. So we're gonna take this line, and I'm keeping myself a little bit below the line that I drew, because I want there to be a little place for errors, and when I'm cleaning it up later, it will be easier if I have a little more to work with. And here we can look so it's a little bit symmetrical, like that. Doesn't have to be, but if you can do it if you want. And the last bit, last side. Like that. And now we're gonna look on these two, so they are a little bit as deep, so they're the same depth on this side and this side, because it will make it easier later. This one a little bit more. And now we can start to just round over all these sides here, just the left and right side and the back, not the front. Just round them over like this. And like that. Like so. We have the nose and the side all rounded. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take off all these points on the hat. If you don't want a square hat, that will say, but I will remove this, because if you slip with the knife, this is very fragile. So just remove until you have a little gap between the nose and the edge of the hat, like so, because we can always deepen the nose later. And the same on these sides. Try to keep in mind the grain direction, so we don't take off too large bit. So we can deepen this one a little bit. Like so. And this side. And then we're gonna go around the whole hat and just round everything over so it becomes a little bit more round. Like that. And we're gonna go and just remove the edges. Like so. And here we take this edge. This is easier with a smaller knife, like I have the Mora 120 that I tend to use for this, but when I make the large cuts I always have a larger knife, and this is between large cuts, so I tend to not switch, but we can do it in this video. You don't have to switch, of course. You can do the entire carving with just one large knife or just one small knife. Here in Sweden these are very popular because you can get them for quite cheap, and you can do everything with one of these. Or not everything maybe, but you can go around a very long time without changing the knife. Just making this a little bit deeper. Something like that. Now we have uncarved in between the edges, and we're just gonna remove that a little bit carefully like this. Like that, and the hat is almost done. We will chamfer these edges later, but now we're gonna go to the nose, and here we're gonna make this a little bit deeper to begin with, so it's about the same depth at the top as the bottom, something like this, just a little bit. And then we have the bottom of the nose. We want to make a stop cut, and on this one, if you make it a little bit higher up, you can make it a wider nose or a taller nose, but I will take it about here. And as you see, I use the lines only as reference because I can't say too many times, or I don't really like to measure when I'm making these. I like to let them become what they become, because I never reproduce one figure. Like, I'm not trying to reproduce them exactly, so if I carve one that looks like the other, there are always something different about them. So I want him to have a little bit wider nose, so I'm gonna go a little bit further out like this. And that is the depth that I will stop with. So now we have these, then we can start with removing the sides a bit, because we want to remove here so it doesn't get those pointy arms, just so you have about a centimeter of flats here. More, and a little bit more. You just want it to be kind of straight, something like that. And then the other side. just see, so they are almost symmetrical. I tend to think about if I'm standing in one position. It's very rare that I'm standing exactly the same with both arms and both legs, so it doesn't need to be totally symmetrical, but it will make your life a little bit easier. So now we have the sides cut off. I think it's about a centimeter. Yeah, almost exactly a centimeter of flat on this side and this side, and we're gonna do the same on the back. But here we can take a little bit more. The best thing with making these larger Santas and figurines is that you can always have them on the table and support them when you're cutting. It's a little bit harder with smaller figurines, but yeah, something like that. And now when we are on the back, we can just round it over a bit. Just remove the corners like this. And keep in mind the grain direction. For some reason this one switch here. Something like that. Quite rough, but it's a good start. Now we're gonna make the beard, because we're gonna carve quite a bit of the beard. So if we say this nose, we can draw the nose. We want it to be about the same here, then like this. We will shape it later, but just the first cut is gonna be like this. We can do that directly. Just take the knife and away from the nose and push the tip down like this. And the same on this side. A little bit more careful when you carve towards. And remove it. And the same on this side. Just remove it. And try to make them quite symmetrical on this side. It will be much easier because the nose is quite noticeable when you look at the character. So if you have it almost, we can round it over to make it easier. Something like that. And we can also remove here. Let's make the nose almost complete before we make the beard. Doesn't matter which order you do those two parts, but if you make the beard and you slip and you have a completed nose, it's a little bit sad. So here you can make a line like this, straight over like this, just to make sure, because now we're gonna take from here and just shape the nose. And the same on this side, because you turn him upside down, or I turn him upside down, then it's a little bit harder to see, so it becomes symmetrical. So this guideline is quite good, but a little bit useful. And we're gonna move a little bit more, get a little bit more shape, like that, and the same here. Like that, and just round it over a bit. And then here we're just gonna round all the corners, wants to be rounded, and just like that. And here chamfer the edge like so, and like so. And it starts to look like a nose. Now we can remove the uncarved parts like that. And then we want to have a little bit more shape in the nose, so we're gonna make just small cuts like this. So just use the tip of the knife and push it down. Same here, push it down. Like that. And we have a nose. Just chamfer a little bit, make it a little bit softer. Like that. This needs to be a little bit deeper. So we have the same. And there we have a nose. Now we're gonna make the beard. We want to make it a bit pointy and a bit wide. And I turn him upside down so I can see that side as I'm drawing. A little bit symmetrical. It doesn't need to be perfect. I want it to be a little bit like a tear, not a tear, I mean a drop shape. Or a leaf, something like that I want on this guy. So now this needs to go out a bit, so we don't want this to be too thin because it might break off. So if we make it a little bit wider like this, it can always be smaller later. Now I'm taking my large knife again, and we're gonna carve down here. And now it's very important that we don't slip up to the nose, so I will turn him around and try to do like this. And just remove the corners so we get it a little bit rounded. And if you want him to have, so it looks like he have a very long beard, you can always take this one in more, because then it will look more like it's on the floor. So we will dig a little bit deeper here. Like that. Now we have the beard here. We can just fill it up a bit here. Add some lines so you can see it again a little bit better. And before we cut this line, we want to just decide how we want the hair. So on this guy we're gonna just make quite, say, half long here around the whole guy. Just like this, just so we know where the hair is going. and up. Something like that. And now I'm gonna use, let's see, this one. It's a 5mm V-tool. You can also use a knife, but because this is a little bit faster for the video's sake, I'm gonna just use it to carve out the beard a little bit like this, and all the way up to the nose. Careful so we don't cut into the nose. Usually I make my figures with only knife when I'm making the video, but it tends to be very long videos, so just to speed it up a little bit, we're just gonna use a V-tool. And even if we use a V-tool now, we need to clean it up with the knife later. So we have the beard, and now we're gonna just follow the line of the hair. Just all the way around. It doesn't have to be very deep, because it depends on if you want him to have thick hair or a little bit thinner hair. Like that. And then remove the V-tool back to the knife. Now we're gonna just take about from the line here and a centimeter down, approximately, almost a centimeter, and just remove. So we doesn't have a very deep cut. And we go all the way around. And at this part of the carve I tend to switch to a smaller knife. Because now it will be more detail work. Like that. All the way around, and then we have these flat spots left. We are going just to round them over. A little bit like this, and remove all the uncut surfaces and just round the hair. Like that. And then we're gonna follow this line with the knife. Just push the tip down, and then up here, and then we're gonna remove this piece, just so we get a little edge from the hair and the nose, so we can separate them. Just a little bit like that. And then round this edge a bit, something like that, and the same on this side. Just cut along the line and along the nose, carefully so you don't cut into the nose too much, and remove it. And round the edge. Then we have here by the nose, we're just gonna take and push the blade in a little bit just to make a little different edge. And the same on this side, just a little bit down and remove it. So this piece of wood was a little bit soft in this area, so it's a little bit harder to get a nice edge, but we will try to make it work. Like that. And now we're just gonna chamfer all the way around the hair. Just go all the way around like this. Like that. Trying to make this work, the soft part, and just look so it's a little bit symmetrical. There we go. And now we're gonna just remove this edge to begin with, keeping in mind the grain direction so we don't remove a big part of the wood. And the same on this side. Something like that. And then we can also round these two edges, because this is where the arm will go, and we don't want the arms to be very flat. Just round them over like this. The same on this side. And if you round them over now before you cut the arms, it's a little bit easier to see what the result will be. Like that. And now we're gonna decide first where the arms will end and the pants will begin. So if we make about halfway from the hair down here, we just make a line, a guideline all the way around. Doesn't need to be straight, but we need these two need to be the same height. But in the back here you can make it a little bit however you like. There we have a guideline like that, and then we have the shoes gonna be drawn in here like so. The beard is covering a little bit. Like so. We can make them go a little bit further back so it looks like the pants are hanging over a bit. Oh, forgot to round this one over. The worst thing with having two knives when you record a video is that you take always the one that is closer. So sometimes I take the small one, sometimes the big one, but it doesn't matter really. So this part is the pants, this is the shoes, and this will be the like shirt, whatever you say. So here we want to make just a little pocket where his arm is going to go down like this, and try to make them a little bit symmetrical. And from here we're gonna make the underarm and then up to the the shoulder. And the same here, just straight, and we want a little bit in, so like that. We can make it a little wider in the back. And now the hard part is to try to make something about the same size on this side. So we try to check, turn him upside down, because then I can see this without having my hand in front of it. So we're gonna try to make it up here, something like that, and this part here. It's quite symmetrical, not perfect, but then we have on the back, it will end almost about there, so we just do it like that. It's very hard to see, but I think that's quite good. So now we are going to decide what will be most protruding from the piece of wood. So it's the arms we're gonna start with, and then we're gonna do the shoes, and then the pants, so we get it in right order. So just take the point of a knife and away from the arm, a little bit of an angle like this, and away from the arm like this. You can always turn it around and cut from the other side, and then just remove this part and this part. We don't need to take all in one go, we can always clean it up. Round it over and clean it up. I always have some problems with arms. Either they don't get perfectly, what do you say, symmetrical, or they go in a weird grain direction, so it's hard to make them. But with a little bit of fixing and cleaning up, you can always make it look quite pretty. And just round this one over and chamfer this one. And now we have a little, what do you say, a little V at the elbow, and just round it a little bit over, something like that, and just clean up this part a bit by the beard. And here. Like so. And then we have the back of the arm. We want to cut it away from the arm, so find the grip that you feel secure with and just trace the line. Like that. Then we're just gonna carve up to that one too. And just round the edge. There we have one arm. You can take the shoulder a little bit in Now the tricky part is to make one more kind of the same. So we're gonna cut this line, and on this side I have a problem with a little bit soft wood, so it might be a little bit harder, but we manage. Not all the wood you buy is perfect, but often you can work around it. We just want to remove a bit here so we get a little bit distance from the beard. And then remove this part. And don't forget the V. Be careful not to cut into the beard too much. A little bit is always fixable, but too much and it is hard to fix. A little bit more. See how I get in with the tip of the knife. Like that, and remove this little soft part. And then we're gonna get this one in. Checking with the other side, so it's a little bit symmetrical. It's most important that it looks good from the front. And round the edge a bit, so you can see this one going to be rounded too. Remove a piece here, just cleaning him up and trying to make him look a little bit more symmetrical. It starts to look a little bit better. Gonna round this edge a little bit. Then when we paint him later, we're gonna not see all those cuts. That is hard to reach. And then we have the back side. Just take the edge point of the knife and follow that line. Down about there. And remove it. Do the same on both sides, just round the corner of these, something like that, and round the arm, like that. There we go, 2 arms. Need to clean them up a bit later. Now we just gotta give the beard a little bit depth under the nose. Just remove all the sharp edges and making it go in a bit. Same on this side. Just use the tip and just remove the corners. Like that. Just so we don't forget to do it later. And now we can take, these sides are not cut yet, so we just gonna quite shallow, carefully remove just the uncut areas, because we want to round this over later, and if we round it over first, then we're gonna flatten it again when we're doing this. Always be careful with which way the grain is going. I'm not always the best of looking before I cut. Something like that. Then we just round it over a bit. Something like that. And now we have the pockets. And when we make the pockets, it's important to think about that we want to go straight down, and then we want to remove from the arm, because the pocket will go on the outside of the arm and not the other way around. So we want to make a little cut here and follow the line like so, and we can turn him around. Always think about when you make these cuts that you don't want to slip. Like this. We can also just remove the edge or the corner of the arm like this to make it a little bit softer. Now he has his hand in a pocket. And on this, we don't want sharp corners, so we're just gonna very little, not too much, just a little chamfer on that one, something like that. And the same on this side, straight down. And then remove a piece of the arm, so it goes into the bucket, and round the arm a little bit like that, and a little chamfer like that. So now we have the pants to work with, and then we have the shoes here. Then we want the pants to go a little bit in, just here, and here is one shoe. See, so we get them a little bit symmetrical, and then we want it to go a little bit in here. So either we can make a stop cut and then cut up to that, or we can remove all the way up, but then it's a little bit risky with the arm, so I'm gonna just make a stop cut. I'm gonna use my larger knife, it's a little bit sharper. Stop cut, and then work up to that line and down. Something like that, just to get a little shape. And the same on this side. Make a stop cut, and from the top down and from the bottom up. There we have a little bit of a shape in the pants. And then we're gonna keep on going around, because here's the line of the pants. We can make them a little bit down in the back, like this. So we have the line for the pants. Then we're just gonna make stop cut and working from up. You can also use the top of your knife and just follow the line, and then just cut up to that line. Something like that. And now it's the back. How do we want the back? You can make it a crooked back, like it's now. I think it's a little bit too bulging, so I'm gonna remove a bit from the bottom and up, so it gets a little bit straighter back. Then we're just gonna take small cuts like this. Careful so we don't cut too hard against the hair. All the way from the bottom. And just round it over. And now when we turn him to the side, there will be another shape to the back. As soon as we have cleaned this up. Like that. And we want to deepen this a little bit, give him a little bit more shape. Something like that. The same here by the pants. You can make him standing straight like this, but it would look a little bit weird, so we want to just remove a little bit in the middle of this and this. You can make it a little bit, I will make it a little bit lower, give him a little bit larger butt. So we're gonna make a stop cut along that line and work from above. This doesn't need to be a large cut, just a little bit like this. Then you can work it out how far you want. And then we're gonna go from below and just remove this edge and round it over. Oops, away he go. It's a little bit hard to hold him from that angle. And everything gets harder when you film a video too, because you need to think about how it looks. Now when we have that one, I'm just gonna round his butt a little bit more. Something like that. And now we're gonna round these. Just take the corners up to the line and down to the line. Just small cuts, so you don't take too much. We just want it to be a little bit round. Like that. And the same on this side. Just round it a little bit. and from the top down. And of course the shoes is almost gone. We're gonna do the shoes next. We're gonna make them a little bit smaller. I think I drew them a little bit too large before. And now we want to make that cut just from the edge of the pants straight down. You can also make it with a little bit of an angle away from the pants, like that, and just remove that. You can make it with a V-tool too, but it's quite simple to do with a knife. And just round it over. And there is a little bit softwood again. We want to remove this corner to make the shoe less pointy. And this corner. The main reason to remove these corners is they are going to be quite fragile, and it looks a little bit better if they are not so pointy. Something like that. Can I round it over a little bit more when the other shoe is carved. Like that, and then we want to do this shoe. Let's see how I will hold him. Something like this. And just a point down. And here I felt a bit softwood too. This was not the best wood. A little bit too many soft spots for my liking. But you work with what you have. The same comes to tools. If you have one knife, use that knife. Doesn't need to be a special knife. Like that, and just remove a piece of this. And just round this edge. And there we have two shoes. So now we're just gonna remove the uncarved part here and check if we have uncarved parts on this side. And then we're gonna chamfer the pants a little bit here. Give them a little bit softer edge. Same on this side. Remove all the paint drawing lines like that and like this. Then we have baggy pants, we can say. So now we're gonna chamfer this part of the pants. The fun with these figurines are that you can make them however you like, how much details you want. So you can even give him like a belt, you can give him other decorations. And now we have this part, and this part is not carved, so we're just gonna remove the uncarved part. just so we don't have any saw marks or any fuzzy parts. And here the grain changed directions, of course. We can soften this a little bit. We see here this is a little bit deeper than this, so we're just gonna fix that too. Just use the tip, go along the beard, and remove that part here, just to make them as deep on both sides. Like so. And now we're gonna, by the foot, we want this to be a little bit more alive. So we want to have some texture. So we're just gonna make small V-cuts along here, so we get a little bit more life in the pants, like they are folding and like that. Doesn't need to be deep, just a little bit like this. And the same on this side. Small V-cuts. Like that. And remove the pencil lines. Always double check for the pencil lines. And there we have almost complete. One important thing to do, because it's pants, we need to divide them like this and a little V in the back like that. Tip of the knife, just carefully, and remove it. Doesn't need to be much, just so you see that it is pants even from behind. And round the edge. Same there, and then we're gonna just push the knife down and make a little V. Just like a little wrinkle. In the fabric. Like that. And there we have him almost done. We're gonna take these edges, just chamfer them and clean them up a bit. There is that soft wood again. So try to clean that up a bit. Take the larger knife, it's a little bit sharper. Just remove the damage, something like this. And then the underside, soft wood, careful. It would be bad to ruin him now by not being careful with the soft spots in the wood. There is one more. The hat is done. The clothes are done. The hands are in the pockets. Now it's just V-tool, or you can use knife, whatever you like. this starts to get quite long video. If you have seen all the way to this part, you can just say hi in the comments. It would be fun to see how many people actually watch the whole video, because it is quite long, so I have an understanding if you skip around different parts. Like this, then we're just gonna make lines down. There is a soft part, so hard to work with. Trying to work around it. These V-tools are very good for this work, because it can be quite tedious to make these lines with a knife. It's fully possible, and I did it before I had my V-tool, but it was really money well spent. Like that, and just the hair. And when the hair is done, we are done with this little dude. Just go around and try to make them a little bit different, so it's a little bit more life in the hair than just straight lines. I tend to take it, put it down, and then turn it to get a little bit more of a curve, like this. Then turn him around and just remove the lower parts. So here's a little trick to get a little bit more depth in the hair. It's to make these lines all the way around, quite even spacing, and turn it around and make it all the way down. And when you have done that, you can just turn him around again and make lines that's not all the way from the bottom. So here, when it's a little bit thicker, you can just make small lines like randomly, and it will make the hair look a little bit less made, or what you can call it, a little bit more random. And just clean it up, just large parts. Like that. And there we have a little Santa, or a little, what do you call him, because it's not quite a Santa depending on how you paint him, but it's a bearded dude. I tend to call them Santas. It's Santas for different occasions. Not all Santas disappear after the Christmas. Some is on Halloween and some is in the summer. So yeah, here we have him done. And I have made one other that I have painted, and I will make one more video with this guy where I paint him, because this became a quite long video, so I will divide it up into two parts where I paint him in the next. So yeah, if you're interested in watching the painting process, watch that video. It will be up soon after this one. So in other case, thank you for watching, and if you like the video, leave a like, and if you want more, you can always subscribe to my channel here. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Novaks Workshop. And if you make one of these yourself from this video, or any other characters that I have on my channel, you can always tag me on Facebook or Instagram, and I will post it as a fun little thing to do on my own channel. So yeah, and give you a shout out of course. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video where we're going to paint this guy. Bye!